Hi there, I'm Drew Badger, the world's #1 English fluency guide, and in this video I'm going to share some slang names for popular American brands. I'm always telling students that you have to learn like a native speaker if you want to speak like one. And part of this means learning the actual vocabulary that native speakers use. Typically, you'll have the thing that you'll see in a textbook, which native speakers do understand, but then you have the real English, the actual native conversational spoken language that native speakers are using in everyday conversations. And so this is what I teach in these lessons and in things like the fluency course and Master English Conversation. A few videos ago, I was actually teaching the phrase the cold shoulder, and a student happened to find this in a catalog and she sent it to me. I'll put it up on the screen right now, but it just goes to show you this is what fluency actually feels like. When you notice something and you learn something, the thing that native speakers are actually using, and then you see it in the real world, whether you hear it in maybe a movie or a conversation, or you see it written somewhere. But that feeling you get when you realize, wow, I really understood something, or I used a native expression and native speakers were noticeably impressed and surprised by that, that's the thing that gives you lots of motivation. So in this video, I want to give you even more motivation by cluing you in, and this is a phrasal verb that just means to give you some great ideas or to help you understand something. So to clue you in to the code language that native speakers actually use. We're going to start easy with some vehicle brand names. The first one is Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson. Listen carefully to the blending of this. Harley-Davidson. 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 This is a motorcycle company, but now it's become much more of a brand where people recognize the ideas of maybe freedom and being able to travel around and you're kind of a rebel, these kinds of ideas. But the name, instead of saying maybe Harley-Davidson, people would just make it shorter and just call it Harley. Next, we've got two cars. The first one is Chevrolet, 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 and not Chevrolet. Chevrolet, so it's that French sound, Chevrolet at the end, Chevrolet, and this becomes shortened to Chevy, Chevy. Now, this was actually something that the company itself didn't want people calling it. They were thinking, well, Chevrolet is supposed to maybe have a more impressive sounding name, a more maybe like luxurious kind of sounding name, so they didn't like people calling it Chevy. But the problem with that is that when they tried to remove or stop people from using the name Chevy, consumers got really upset about this. And this is because the brand is actually controlled in the mind of the consumer. And so maybe the company wants to call it Chevrolet or have it be called Chevrolet, but the people that are using it and they talk about it say, I drive a Chevy, I drive a Chevy, I drive a Chevy. Next, we've got Corvette. Corvette. And you might be able to guess how we would shorten this one, but it becomes vet. 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 So you can say, I drive a vet, or I really want to buy a vet. So Corvette becomes vet. Next, IBM. IBM. Now, this is an acronym for International Business Machines, but the company is also known as Big Blue. And maybe it could be for a couple of reasons, maybe for the attire that people have. So if everyone wears a blue blazer, or, they typically have blue suits for people that are working there, or if it's just because of the logo itself, because it's blue and the company is really, really big. So people call it Big Blue. But this is when you're talking about it, you can talk about like I'm investing in Big Blue, or I have a computer from Big Blue. So if you use this, you're talking about IBM, but you're using it in a way that you sound much more native and conversational. Big Blue. Next, Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola. Coca-Cola is shortened to Coke, and actually when this is in maybe different parts of the United States, you would talk about a soft drink in general, so a carbonated beverage with the little bubbles in it. But in many places in the United States, a carbonated beverage is known as a pop, a soda, or a soda pop, or even other names, but those are the most common ones. But in some places, any kind of carbonated beverage might be called a Coke. So someone might go into a restaurant and say, can I have a Coke? But they don't actually mean a Coca-Cola, they mean some other kind of drink. So they're asking maybe, oh, what kind would you like? So that's how powerful the brand of Coca-Cola has become, but people use the term Coke when they're talking about it in just everyday situations. Yeah, can I get a Coke? Can I get a Coke? If you go to a bar, someone might order, or you might order, a Jack and Coke. And this is also that same abbreviated, a Jack Daniel's whiskey and Coca-Cola. So a Jack and Coke. And just means instead of ordering a whiskey with some Coke in it, or some Coke with a little bit of whiskey for most people, you would order specifically this brand name of a Jack and Coke, Jack Daniel's whiskey with Coca-Cola. Next, American Express. American Express. Listen carefully to how this blends. We've got that last sound of the N from American and the E from Express. American Express. Nixpress. Nixpress. American Express becomes Amex. Amex. When we're talking about paying for something and people are at a store, hey, do you take American Express? You can say that, or you can say, do you take Amex? Amex. Amex. It's similar to Federal Express, which shortened its actual name to FedEx. FedEx. And the same way we have that blending for American Express, we have Federal Express as well. FedEx. 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 Next, we've got Charles Shaw wine. This is a very popular, very cheap wine, and it's come to be known as $2 Chuck. $2 Chuck. So let's break this down a bit. Now, a buck is another term for a dollar. So if something costs $2, it costs $2. Maybe you have the same thing in your native language where you have more than one term for money. So we can talk about money, greenbacks, frog skins, cheddar, bread, all kinds of different things that actually just mean money. But buck is a very common one, and you'll hear this used a lot in commercials and everyday conversations. So $2 Chuck, Charles becomes Chuck as just like an everyday conversational thing. So the same way that maybe Bill is a shortened form of William. So William Clinton, William Jefferson Clinton, the president, or the ex-president is known as Bill Clinton. So the same thing, Charles becomes Chuck. This is one thing that you'll learn about people as you meet more native speakers, or even just listening to people's names. To sound a bit more professional, you would say Charles, but maybe in a conversational way or a more friendly way, you would say Chuck. So Charles Shaw wine becomes $2 Chuck. Now getting into our last few, we have, instead of blackberry, crackberry. You may have heard this before, crackberry. So crack is a drug that's highly addictive, and people talk about the BlackBerry, which isn't so popular in use now. Some companies do use it, but a BlackBerry is an old device with, you got the actual keypad on it and people are typing their information in there. But just because it was so popular and so addictive, people were always using it. They called it a crackberry instead of a BlackBerry. A crackberry. Crackberry. Next, McDonald's, McDonald's, McDonald's. This is always a fun one I get to share with people here in Japan because the pronunciation in Japanese is makudonarudo. Makudonarudo. Actually, I don't want to give a Japanese lesson here, but you can understand how a Japanese speaker would hear McDonald's and understand makudonarudo. Makudonarudo. So it's a kind of a long thing, and people typically shorten things as well in Japanese. But anyway, the thing that people will often use in regular conversations is Mickey D's. Mickey D's. Mickey D's. So people say, oh, you want to go to Mickey D's, or I'm going to Mickey D's. Do you want anything? Mickey D's. Mickey D's. It's just more casual and conversational, and it's a little bit easier to say than McDonald's. McDonald's. Mickey D's. Mickey D's. Mickey D's. And finally, we've got Target. Target. Target is a large store that sells lots of different things, but it's like Walmart, but at the same time, it's a little bit slightly higher quality, or they're trying to, just as a general rule for the company, take more expensive things or more luxurious things and produce them in a way that they can sell them to lots of people. So it can kind of get like maybe slightly better quality things than you could at Walmart. But a company like Target, because of this slightly kind of better way of having maybe nicer products, people jokingly refer to it as Target. Target. So they're joking about that. They're not kind of actually using the term, oh, I'm going to Target today, but you can use it in a joking way. You say, oh, I'm going to Target, and you sound like very, I don't know, maybe like wealthy and like you're going to spend a lot of money, but it's a joking thing because you're using it at a store that, well, it's Target. It's just like a large store for mass retail. But you notice how the pronunciation changes. Target is a regular English word, but then just like we covered early in this video, we had Chevrolet, and that has the same ET at the end of it, Chevrolet. So we take kind of a French sounding thing to make it sound a little bit nicer, but just as a joke. So we're going to Target, T-A-R-G-E-T, but it sounds more of like a French pronunciation to give it a little bit slightly more affluent sound to it. I bought this new couch at Target. I bought this new dish at Target. Well, I hope you have enjoyed this video. Do like it and do use some of these in your writing and conversations, and you will sound like more of a native speaker, as well as impress native speakers when they say, oh, I didn't know you know Target or crackberry or any of these other things. And if you'd like to learn even more conversational vocabulary, plus more importantly, understand how to remember these things so that you don't just learn it and it goes in one ear and out the other, I want you to remember all the great vocabulary that I'm helping you learn. So click on the link in this video to take our free English fluency quiz. You can start that right now and it will tell you everything you need to know specifically for your situation that will help you become a confident, fluent speaker much, much faster. I look forward to seeing you at EnglishAnyone.com, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.